G1 Park sat alone in the corner of the station's common area, finally getting a moment of peace. Her shift had been 12 hours long, walking the endless corridors of Kepler 9, making sure the diplomats and traders stayed safe. Her feet hurt. Her back ached. And she was hungry. She unwrapped the sandwich carefully, like it was something precious. Because it was. Her brother Taesung had sent it all the way from Earth, packed in special containers that kept it fresh during the 3-week journey through space. Bulgogi beef, kimchi, crispy vegetables, all wrapped in soft bread. The smell alone made her close her eyes and remember home. Kepler 9 was huge. A spinning wheel of metal and glass floating in space. Thousands of aliens lived here. From dozens of different worlds. They came to make deals, sign treaties, and argue about borders. G1 was part of the human security team, one of only 20 humans on a station of 5,000 beings. Most of the aliens barely noticed humans. Some looked down at them. Humans were new to space, weak, soft. That's what the other species thought. G1 didn't care much about their opinions. She did her job, kept her head down, and counted the days until her rotation ended, and she could go home. She took a bite of her sandwich and felt tension leave her shoulders. For just a moment, everything was okay. Then a shadow fell across her table. She looked up and saw a creature that towered over her. Even though she was sitting, and he was still 3 steps away. He was Crothian, one of the warrior race that controlled 7 star systems. His scales were deep green with red patterns running down his spine. His eyes were yellow with black slits. When he opened his mouth, she saw rows of sharp teeth, but he wasn't fully grown. She could tell by the way he moved, all swagger and no grace. His scales were still bright, not yet scarred from battle. He was young, maybe the equivalent of a teenager in his species. That didn't make him less dangerous. He was still twice her size, and probably 3 times her strength. The young Krathian stared at her sandwich. Then he looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes. Challenge. Contempt. Like she was nothing. His hand shot out, fast as a snake strike. He grabbed her sandwich right out of her hands. The common area went quiet. Conversations stopped. Aliens at other tables turned to watch. This was a test. G1 realized. The young warrior was showing off, proving his dominance over a weak human. Most people would have protested. Maybe shouted. Maybe called security. Some would have just let it go. Not wanting trouble. G1 didn't think. She just moved. Her training kicked in. The thousands of hours spent in combat gyms on Mars, learning how to fight opponents bigger and stronger than herself. She pushed off the table, drove her shoulder into the Crothian's midsection while his attention was still on the sandwich, and used his own forward momentum against him. He wasn't expecting resistance. His balance shifted wrong. She grabbed his arm, the one holding her sandwich, stepped to the side, and twisted. In Crothian anatomy, the elbow joint bent the same way as humans, and leverage was leverage no matter what planet you came from. The young warrior went down hard, crashing to the floor with a sound like a small vehicle hitting pavement. The sandwich flew into the air. G1 caught it with her free hand, took a step back, and watched him. The Crothian lay on the ground, stunned. His yellow eyes were wide with shock. Around them, the common area was completely silent now. G1 could feel dozens of eyes on her. Some were alien eyes she couldn't read. Some were human eyes, wide with fear about what might happen next. Then she heard something that made her blood run cold. Laughter. Deep, rumbling laughter that sounded like rocks grinding together. A fully grown Crothian warrior stood from a table across the room. He was massive, covered in scars, wearing armor marked with symbols G1 didn't recognize. His scales were dark, almost black, and when he walked forward, other aliens moved out of his way. This was a real warrior, not a youngster playing at dominance. This was someone who had killed, who had fought in actual wars. G1's hand moved toward the weapon at her hip. even though she knew it would be useless. The warrior walked past her, still laughing, and looked down at the young Krathian on the floor. He spoke in his own language, a series of hisses and growls. The youngster's scales flushed darker with what might have been embarrassment. Then the big warrior turned to G1 and did something unexpected. He placed his right fist over his heart and lowered his head slightly. "A salute. You fight for your sustenance," he said in accented but clear English. "This is the way of warriors." The cub learned a valuable lesson today. He looked back at the youngster. Never underestimate an opponent based on size alone. Ji-wen stood very still, her sandwich still in her hand, trying to understand what was happening. Was this a trick? Some kind of trap? The warrior looked at her with those predator eyes. "I am war leader Galth. The foolish cub is Vorkash, my student. You have taught him something I could not teach with words alone." He paused. "What is your name, human?" "Corporal G1 Park," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Earth Security Forces, G1 Park," Galth repeated, testing the sounds. "You have warrior spirit. This is rare in your species, from what I have observed." He made a gesture with his clawed hand. "Come to the Krathian training hall tomorrow, 1 hour after station dawn. We will see if your spirit is matched by skill." It wasn't really a request. G1 understood that much. "I'll be there," she said. Galth's teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "Good." He turned to Vorkash and spoke sharply in Krathian. The young warrior got to his feet, keeping his eyes down, and followed Galth out of the common area. The noise of conversation slowly returned as aliens went back to their meals and deals. But G1 could feel the change in how they looked at her now. The whispers. The pointing. She sat back down at her table and looked at her sandwich. It was a little crushed from the fight, but still intact. She took a bite. It tasted even better now. Her communicator buzzed. Lieutenant Hyun-woo's face appeared on the small screen, and he did not look happy. "My office, now," he said. "What the hell did you just do?" G1 finished her bite, wrapped up the rest of her sandwich, and stood. She had a feeling life on Kepler 9 was about to get much more complicated, but as she walked toward her commander's office, she couldn't help but smile just a little. That young warrior had tried to take something that belonged to her. He had assumed she would be weak, would submit, would let him have his way. He had learned otherwise. And tomorrow, apparently, she would learn whether she had made the best decision of her life or the worst. Lieutenant Hyun-woo Choi paced back and forth in his small office, his face showing the kind of anger that came from worry. G1 stood at attention, watching him wear a path in the metal floor. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he asked for the third time. "I got my sandwich back, sir," G1 said. Hyun-woo stopped pacing and stared at her. "This isn't a joke, Corporal. You just humiliated a Krathian warrior in front of half the station. Their culture is built on honor and combat. This could turn into a diplomatic disaster." "He grabbed my food, sir. I retrieved it. And he's twice your size, and from a species that sees physical dominance as a sacred right." Hyun-woo sat down heavily in his chair. "And now you're supposed to meet with their war leader tomorrow?" G1. "This could be a trap. They might want revenge, or they might want to train," G1 said quietly. Before Hyun-woo could respond, his communicator chimed. He answered it, and his expression changed from angry to carefully neutral. "Yes, Ambassador. She's here now. I understand." "Yes, ma'am." He closed the connection and looked at G1 with something between sympathy and resignation. "Ambassador Da-eun wants to see you. She's been monitoring the situation." 20 minutes later, G1 stood in quarters much nicer than her own, facing a woman in elegant diplomatic robes. Ambassador Da-eun Nam was in her 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a reputation for turning problems into opportunities. "Sit down, Corporal," Da-eun said, pouring tea into 2 cups. "You've had an interesting day." Ji-won sat, accepting the tea but not drinking it yet. She waited. The Krathian Empire controls significant territory, Daun said. They're warriors, yes, but they're also pragmatic. They respect strength and despise weakness. She sipped her tea. For 2 years, I've been trying to get them to take humanity seriously in security matters. They see us as soft, diplomatic, unsuited for real conflict. And now? G1 asked. Now one of our security officers has physically bested one of their warriors and earned a training invitation from a war leader. Daun smiled slightly. You've done in 5 minutes what I couldn't do in 2 years. You've made them curious about us. I just wanted my sandwich, Ambassador. I know. That's what makes it perfect. Daun set down her cup. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to that training session tomorrow. You're going to show them what human determination looks like. And if you can earn their respect, you'll be opening doors for all of us. And if they decide to kill me for embarrassing them, they won't, Daun said with confidence. G1 didn't quite share. Galth wouldn't have invited you if he meant harm. The Krathians are brutal, but they follow their code strictly. This is about honor, not revenge. She paused. But it will be dangerous. Their training is designed for their physiology. You'll be at a severe disadvantage. G1 thought about her brother's sandwich, about the contempt in young Vorkash's eyes when he grabbed it, about the assumption that she would simply accept being pushed around because she was small and human. I'll manage, she said. The next morning, G1 stood outside the Krathian section of the station. The entrance was marked with symbols that looked like claw marks in metal. She could hear sounds from inside, thuds and crashes and roars that made her instincts scream at her to run. She stepped through the doorway. The training hall was huge, with ceilings 3 times normal height. The gravity felt heavier, pulling at her muscles. A display near the door showed it was set to 1.4 times Earth standard. The Krathians trained under conditions that would exhaust most species. A dozen Krathian warriors stood in a circle around a clear space in the center of the hall. They watched her enter with yellow eyes that reflected the harsh lighting. Galth stood among them, arms crossed over his scarred chest. Vorkash stood in the center of the circle, already waiting. G1 Park, Galth said, his voice carrying easily across the space. You came. This shows courage. He gestured toward Vorkash. G1 Park. Like some. G1 Park. The cub has requested the chance to restore his honor through formal combat. In our culture, being bested is shameful only if you do not face your opponent again. G1 looked at Vorkash. The young warrior's scales were darker today, his posture tense. He was scared, she realized, but trying not to show it. Scared of losing again. Scared of being shamed in front of these adult warriors. She understood that feeling. What are the rules? She asked. Non-lethal combat, Galth said. First to yield, or first to be unable to continue. You may refuse this challenge. There would be no shame for you in that. But there would be shame for Vorkash, G1 thought. And more importantly, there would be an assumption that humans back down from challenges, that they were weak. I accept, she said. Galth's teeth showed. Good. You may use any technique you wish. Vorkash will do the same, but he has been instructed to avoid lethal strikes. He paused. The gravity is uncomfortable for you, yes? We can adjust it. No, G1 said. She walked into the circle, feeling the extra weight with every step. Leave it as it is. She had fought in heavy gravity before, on Mars during the border conflicts. Her muscles remembered how to compensate, how to use the weight instead of fighting against it. Vorkash dropped into a fighting stance, his claws extended. He was taking this seriously now, not showing off like yesterday. His eyes tracked her movements with predator focus. The other warriors began a low, rhythmic sound, something between a hum and a growl. A battle chant, maybe, or just their way of watching a fight. Galth raised one hand. Begin. Vorkash rushed forward, using his size and strength. But he was still young, still predictable. Ji-won sidestepped, letting him pass, and struck at his knee joint as he went by. Not hard enough to injure, just enough to sting and throw off his balance. He spun faster than she expected, his tail whipping around. She ducked under it, barely, feeling the air move above her head. If that had connected, it would have broken bones. They circled each other. The heavy gravity was making her arms feel like lead, but it was affecting him too. He was breathing harder, his movements just a fraction slower than they should be. Ji-won feinted left, went right, and got inside his reach. She drove her elbow into his ribs, heard him grunt, then had to roll away as his claws came down where she had been standing. The fight went on. 3 minutes. 5. 7. Neither of them could land a finishing blow. Vorkash was stronger. His scales were natural armor. His weapons were built into his body. But Ji-won was faster, smarter, more experienced at reading opponents. She noticed that he favored his right side, protecting old bruises. She noticed that his breathing had a pattern, a slight pause before he committed to a big strike. She noticed that, in the heavy gravity, his tail dragged just a little, a fraction lower than normal. Ji-won waited for her moment. When it came, she moved. She grabbed his tail as it swept past, twisted her whole body, and used the heavy gravity to her advantage. She dropped low, yanked hard, and Vorkash's feet went out from under him. He crashed down, and she was already moving, getting behind him, locking her arm around his neck, her legs around his torso, pulling his right arm back at an angle that would dislocate his shoulder if she pulled any harder. "Yield," she said quietly, close to his ear hole. He struggled, but the position was locked. If he tried to use his strength, his shoulder would break. If he tried to roll, she would go with him and pull harder. He was trapped, and they both knew it. "I yield," Vorkash said. Ji-won released him immediately and rolled away, coming to her feet with effort. The gravity felt like hands pushing down on her shoulders. Vorkash stayed on the ground for a moment, breathing hard. Then Galth stepped forward, and his laugh echoed through the hall. "Well fought. Both of you. Olth, oh," he looked at his warriors. "Do you see? The human fights, like the small fang predators of our home world. They compensate for size with cunning and ferocity." The other warriors made sounds of approval, that same humming growl. Vorkash got to his feet slowly. He looked at Ji-won, and this time, there was no contempt in his eyes. "You fight well," he said in halting English. "I underestimated you twice. I will not do so again." Ji-won nodded, too tired to speak. Her muscles were screaming, and she could barely stand. Galth approached her. "I offer you something unusual, Ji-won Park. Train with us for the duration of your station assignment. Learn our ways. Teach us yours. This could benefit both our peoples." Before Ji-won could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed. An automated voice announced in multiple languages. "Alert. Unidentified vessels approaching. All security personnel report to duty stations. This is not a drill." Quote. End quote. Galth's expression hardened. "Pirates. They have been growing bold lately." He looked at Ji-won. "Your answer will have to wait. Go to your post, warrior." Ji-won ran for the exit, her body protesting every step as the station prepared for battle. The command center was chaos. Representatives from 5 different species argued in the middle of the room, while security officers tried to get useful information from sensors. Ji-won pushed through the crowd, still breathing hard from her fight, her uniform soaked with sweat. 15 ships, someone was shouting. "They're flying pirate colors. Mixed species cruise. They're demanding we surrender all valuable cargo or they'll start destroying docking ports," another voice added. Lieutenant Hyun-woo spotted Ji-won and grabbed her arm. "Where have you been?" "Never mind. Doesn't matter. We've got a serious problem." The council can't agree on what to do. G1 looked at the holographic display showing the approaching ships. They would be in weapons range within 2 hours. What's the disagreement? Everything, Hyunwoo said tiredly. The Krathians want to go out and fight them in space. The Velians want to strengthen shields and wait. The Chithan want to set traps in the corridors. The Narayans won't commit forces outside their water section. And the Sky Talons are focused on evacuating civilians. They're all right, Ji-won said. Hyunwoo blinked. What? They're all right. Each species knows their own strengths. The problem is, they're trying to force one plan, when they should be using all of them together. Before Hyunwoo could respond, Ambassador Da-eun's voice cut through the noise. Everyone quiet, please. The arguing died down. She stood on a platform where everyone could see her. We clearly cannot agree on a single approach. I propose we appoint a tactical coordinator, someone who can integrate our different capabilities into a unified defense. And who would that be? Asked a crystalline Velian, their body glowing with agitation. I nominate Corporal G1 Park, Da-eun said. The room erupted in protests. A Krathian representative roared something angry. A Sky Talon screeched. The Chithan representative made clicking sounds that the translator rendered as unacceptable, too inexperienced. But Galth's voice boomed over all of them. I support this choice. Everyone turned to stare at the war leader. He had entered the command center without G1 noticing, still wearing his training armor. Vorkash stood behind him. This human has proven herself twice, Galth continued. Once by refusing to submit to intimidation. Once by defeating a Krathian warrior in combat. She understands that different strengths can be used together. I will follow her tactical direction. My warriors will, as well. This is madness, the Sky Talon representative said, their feathers ruffling. She is one individual from a species barely in space for a century. Do you have a better suggestion? Da-eun asked calmly. Someone all of you will agree to follow? Someone who understands all of your capabilities? Silence. The representatives looked at each other, and G1 could see the problem. Each species trusted their own, distrusted the others. If a Krathian led, the Velians would resist. If a Velian led, the Krathians would ignore them. The crystalline Velian spoke, their voice like wind chimes. Sentinel Mirax agrees to participate under human coordination. For now. If the defense fails, responsibility will be clear. The Chithan Hive accepts, clicked another representative. But we reserve the right to act independently. If human judgment proves faulty. One by one, the species agreed, each with their own conditions and warnings. G1 felt a weight settle on her shoulders that had nothing to do with the Krathian training hall's gravity. I'll need to speak with each of your tactical specialists, G1 said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. And I'll need full access to station schematics and sensor data. You'll have it, Da-eun said. She looked at G1 with an expression that was both encouraging and slightly apologetic for putting her in this position. The next 3 hours were the most intense of G1's life. She met with representatives from each species, learning their capabilities, their limitations, their cultural approaches to combat. The Sky Talons, bird-like and graceful, excelled at rapid movement and evacuation procedures. They could clear civilians from danger zones faster than any other species. The Velians, crystalline beings of living energy, were masters of defensive shields and power management. They could reinforce critical areas and redirect station power where needed. The Chithan, insect-like with hive minds, were perfect for setting coordinated traps and ambushes. They could communicate silently and move through maintenance tunnels too small for other species. The Narayans, aquatic and cautious, controlled the station's water processing and life support. They wouldn't fight outside their element, but they could protect vital systems. And the Krathians, warriors to their core, would be the hammer that struck when needed, fast, brutal, effective. Ji-won's friend Bo-ram Seo helped her organize the information. Bo-ram was a reconnaissance specialist, small and quick, good at finding details others missed. "You really think you can make this work?" she asked quietly. "I have to," Ji-won said, studying the station map. "If I don't, people die. Including us." Dal-Soo Kwan, the human weapons specialist, joined them. He was older, gruff, and skeptical of everything. "The Velians have shield technology that's 50 years ahead of ours. If we could integrate it with our power systems, we might be able to create localized barriers in the corridors." "Will they share the technology?" Ji-won asked. "If you ask them the right way, maybe." Dal-Soo shrugged. "I can work with their engineers if you can convince them to let me." Ji-won added it to her growing list of things to coordinate. The pirates would be in weapons range in 40 minutes. She called a meeting of all the tactical leads. They gathered in the command center, an unlikely group of beings who normally barely spoke to each other. "Here's the plan," Ji-won said, projecting a holographic map. "We don't try to do one thing well. We do everything. Each species handling what they're best at. We do. We do. We do. We do. We do." She pointed to different sections of the station. "Sky Talons. You evacuate all non-combatants to the central core. It's the most reinforced area. You have 30 minutes. The Sky Talon officer nodded, already moving to coordinate their people. "Velians, I need your shields focused on docking bays 1 through 6 and the command center. Leave bay 7 weaker." Sentinel Mirax glowed brighter. "You want them to board at bay 7? "It's controlled ground," Ji-won explained. "If they board there, we know where they are. Chithan warriors will be hidden in the maintenance tunnels around that bay. When the pirates are inside, you snap your shields up, trap them, and the Chithan ambush." From unexpected angles, the Chithan representative made an approving click. "The Hive finds this strategy acceptable. Narians, I need you to protect life support and water processing. If those fail, nothing else matters. Can you fortify your section?" "Why?" The aquatic representative, speaking through a translation device, bubbled agreement. "We can seal our areas and defend them. This we do well. Krathians." Ji-won looked at Golth. "You're our rapid response. When the Chithans spring their ambush, the pirates will panic and scatter. You hit them hard, drive them toward the shield barriers, give them nowhere to go." Galth's teeth showed. "This we will enjoy. But what of their leaders? Pirates do not function without command." "I'm working on that," Ji-won said. She had an idea, but it was risky, and she needed more information first. The meeting broke up, each species moving to their assigned tasks. Bo-ram pulled Ji-won aside. "You didn't mention where the human security teams will be." "With me," Ji-won said. "Mobile. Adapting to wherever things go wrong. Because something will go wrong. Plans never survive. First contact with the enemy." Her communicator buzzed. It was Dal-Soo. "I convinced the Velians to let me work with their tech. We can create portable shield generators. Small ones. Good for maybe 30 seconds each. But better than nothing. Make as many as you can," Ji-won said. "Distribute them to all security teams." The pirates arrived exactly on schedule. Their ships were a mismatched collection of modified freighters and military surplus vessels. But their weapons were real and dangerous. The lead ship broadcast a message. "Surrender your valuables, or we begin destroying the station section by section. You have 1 hour." Ambassador Da-un stood beside Ji-won in the command center. "They won't really wait an hour," she said quietly. "They're just giving us time to panic." They're just giving us time. They're just giving us time to panic. They're just giving us time." "Then we don't panic," Ji-won said. "We let them think we're considering their demands while we get everyone in position." She watched the tactical display as each species confirmed readiness. Green lights appeared across the map as teams reached their assignments. Sky Talons reported civilians evacuated. Velians confirmed shield adjustments. Chithan warriors disappeared into the walls like ghosts. Krathians gathered at staging points, eager for battle. Narians sealed their section tight. 20 minutes passed. 30. The pirate ships moved closer, growing bolder. G1 opened a channel to the lead pirate ship. This is Kepler 9 security. We need more time to gather the requested materials. A rough voice answered, speaking in broken common language. You have 15 minutes. Then we come in anyway. G1 closed the channel. They'll board at Base 7. Just like we predicted. Pirates always take the path of least resistance. And we made that bay look vulnerable. Galth approached, Vorkash at his side. The young warrior looked nervous, but determined. My student wishes to fight in the coming battle. He says he must prove himself after being defeated twice. G1 looked at Vorkash. You already proved yourself by facing me again. You don't have anything more to prove. There. Among my people, Vorkash said slowly in English. Defeat is not shameful. But refusing to fight when battle comes? That is shameful. All right, G1 said. Stay with Galth. Follow his orders exactly. This isn't training. People die in real combat. Vorkash placed his fist over his heart in salute. I understand. The pirate ships launched boarding craft. Small, fast ships headed straight for Bay 7, just as G1 had predicted. 3 other ships moved toward different bays, testing the defenses. Shield strength maximum at bays 1 through 6, G1 ordered. Bay 7, bring shields down to 30%. Make it look damaged, not inviting. The pirates took the bait. The main boarding force, 20 fighters by sensor count, headed for Bay 7. Chithan teams ready? G1 asked. The hive is ready, came the clicking response. Velians, when I give the signal, bring Bay 7 shields to maximum. Trap them inside. Acknowledged. Mirax's chiming voice confirmed. Krathians, stand by for assault. Galth's laugh rumbled through the comm. We are always ready. G1 watched the pirate ships dock at Bay 7. Watch the attackers pour out. Weapons drawn. Expecting easy prey. Watch them spread through the bay. Looking around in confusion, at the empty space. Now, G1 said. The shields snapped up, solid walls of energy. The Chithan emerged from tunnels in the walls, the ceiling, the floor. The Krathians charged from concealed positions. Roaring battle cries. The battle for Kepler 9 had begun. The command center monitors showed 3 different battles happening at once. G1 forced herself to stay calm. To think clearly. Even as weapons fire lit up the screens, Bay 7 was going exactly as planned. The pirates were trapped between Velian shields and had Chithan warriors dropping on them from every direction. The Krathians hit them like a hammer, and the pirates' numerical advantage meant nothing in the confined space where they couldn't maneuver. But the other pirate ships were adapting. 3 boarding craft had broken off from Bay 7 and were trying to force their way into Bay 3. The shields there were holding, but they were taking heavy fire. Velian teams, reinforce Bay 3 shields, G1 ordered. Pull power from non-essential sections if you need to. Complying, Mirax responded. But this will drain our reserves faster. We can maintain maximum shields for approximately 20 more minutes. 20 minutes. G1 looked at the tactical display and did quick calculations in her head. The main pirate force in Bay 7 would be defeated in 10 minutes, at their current rate. But 3 more ships were still in space, circling the station, looking for weaknesses. Boram, what do your sensors show about the pirate command structure? G1 asked. Her friend worked the console quickly. The largest ship, the one hanging back, that's where their leader is broadcasting from. The boarding parties are following orders from that ship. Can we jam their communications? Maybe for a few minutes, but they'd adapt. And it might make them more dangerous if they panic. A new alarm sounded. One of the pirate ships was moving toward the Narration section, where the water-filled corridors made conventional shields less effective. Narration command. You have incoming, Ji-won warned. The bubbling voice of the Narration defender came back, calm and unhurried. We see them. We have prepared surprises for those who enter our waters uninvited. Ji-won had to trust them. She couldn't be everywhere at once. That was the whole point of coordinating different species, letting each one handle what they did best. In Bay 7, the battle was turning. The Chithan warriors fought with perfect coordination, their hive mind allowing them to act as one organism. The Crothians were terrifying in close combat, their natural weapons and armor giving them a huge advantage. The pirates were breaking, trying to retreat, but the shields had them boxed in. Then everything went wrong. A massive explosion rocked the station. Alarms blared across every channel. One of the pirate ships had rammed Bay 5, deliberately destroying itself to breach the hull. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. But not before a dozen pirates poured through the gap. And these weren't random thugs. Ji-won could see them on the monitors, moving with military precision, heading straight for the command center. They know where we are, Lieutenant Hyun-woo said grimly. This was their real plan. The attack on Base 7 was a distraction. Ji-won's mind raced. The command center was in the middle of the station, protected by layers of corridors and security doors. But if these pirates were trained soldiers, they could fight their way through. How long until they reach us? She asked. 8 minutes, maybe 10. Bo-Ram answered, her fingers flying over the sensors. They've got heavy weapons. They're cutting through security doors. Ambassador Da-un touched Ji-won's shoulder. The evacuation ships are almost ready. I can get you and the command staff out through the escape tubes. No, Ji-won said. If we lose the command center, we lose coordination. The defense falls apart. She opened a channel. Galth, are you clear in Bay 7? Nearly. The war leader's voice came back, punctuated by the sounds of combat. The pirates are surrendering, or dying. What do you need? I need a rapid response team at the command center. We've got enemy soldiers incoming, heavily armed, heading straight for us. We are coming, Galth said immediately. Hold your position. Vorkash stays with the Chithan, Ji-won added quickly. This is going to be dangerous. There was a pause. Then Galth's voice, quieter. The cub insists he fights. He says he will not hide while his teacher faces battle. Ji-won didn't have time to argue. Fine, but keep him alive. Galth, please, on my honor, the war leader promised. 6 minutes until the pirates reached the command center. Ji-won turned to Hyun-woo. Get all non-combat personnel into the inner room. Seal the door behind them. Ambassador, that includes you. I'm not leaving, Da-un said firmly. Ambassador, this is my station, Corporal. I'm not abandoning it. Ji-won didn't have time to argue with her either. She turned to the dozen human security officers in the command center. Defensive positions. They'll come through that main corridor. We funnel them into a kill zone, make them pay for every meter. Bo-Ram handed out the portable shield generators Dal-Su had made. 30 seconds of protection each. Use them when you need them. Dal-Su himself was already at the weapons locker, distributing rifles. These are loaded for armored targets. 3-round burst. Aim for joints and seams. Don't waste ammunition on body shots. 4 minutes. Ji-won could hear the pirates now. The sound of cutting tools on the security door 3 corridors away. She positioned her people carefully, 2 behind makeshift barricades they'd built from furniture and equipment crates. 3 more inside alcoves where they could provide crossfire. The rest spread out to cover different angles. Remember, she said, we don't have to kill them all. We just have to hold until the Crothians arrive. 3 minutes. The cutting sounds grew louder. Sparks showed through the seams of the door. 2 minutes. Ji-won checked her rifle one more time. Beside her, Hyun-woo looked calm, but she could see his hands were steady on his weapon. Good. He was a veteran too, Mars trained like her. 1 minute. The door glowed red from the cutting. Almost through. 30 seconds. G1 activated one of the portable shields and held it ready. The shimmering field would stop a few shots. Maybe buy her time to get to cover. The door exploded inward. Pirates poured through, and G1's first thought was that they were huge. Not Krathian huge, but big, armored, carrying weapons that looked like they could punch through walls. Leading them was a Krathian. But his armor was wrong, marked with symbols that Galth would probably recognize as dishonored. That's Shaxtar. Galth's voice came through her earpiece. He was exiled from our people 10 years ago for breaking our codes. He leads this pirate fleet. The big Krathian's yellow eyes locked onto G1. So, the human who beat Vorkash in combat. I heard about that. Impressive, for prey species. His common language was perfect. Educated. Surrender the command center, and I'll let your people live. No, G1 said simply. Shaxtar laughed. I like you, human. You have spirit, but spirit doesn't stop bullets. His pirates opened fire. G1's shield flared bright, absorbing the first burst. Then shattered. She dove behind a barricade, as more shots tore through the space where she'd been standing. Her people returned fire. 3 pirates went down in the first exchange, but there were at least 20 more. The command center became a chaos of weapons, fire, shouting, and the smell of burned metal. G1 aimed carefully, fired, saw a pirate stagger. Beside her, Boram was covering the left flank, her smaller rifle cracking steadily. Hyun-woo coordinated from cover, calling out targets and threats, but they were being pushed back. Shaxtar's people were too many, too well armed. For every pirate that went down, they advanced another meter into the command center. A pirate grenade rolled toward their position. Dalsu kicked it back, and it exploded among the enemy, buying them a few seconds. But G1 knew they couldn't hold much longer. Galth, where are you? She called into her comm. 30 seconds, came the reply. 30 seconds. A lifetime in combat. G1 saw one of her people go down, hit in the leg. She grabbed them, pulled them behind better cover, kept firing. Shaxtar was advancing personally now, his heavy armor shrugging off shots that would have killed a human. He was heading straight for G1, recognizing her as the leader. You fight well, he called to her, but you are still prey, still weak, still human. Then a roar echoed through the corridor, and Krathian warriors crashed into the pirates from behind. Galth led them, his claws flashing, his armor already scarred from earlier fighting. The pirates, caught between 2 forces, tried to regroup, but the Krathians gave them no time. Vorkash was there too, fighting beside Galth, moving with more skill than G1 had seen in their training matches. He had been learning, watching, growing, but Shaxtar ignored his own people's collapse. He was focused entirely on G1 now. You think these warriors save you? I am stronger than all of them. He charged, and G1 barely rolled aside in time. His claws gouged deep marks in the metal floor. She came up firing, but her shots just sparked off his armor. He was too big, too strong, too experienced. His tail whipped around and caught her in the ribs, lifting her off her feet and slamming her into a wall. Pain exploded through her chest. She couldn't breathe. Her rifle was gone, knocked away by the impact. Shaxtar approached slowly, savoring his victory. You are prey, wearing a warrior's mask. And now you die. G1's hand found a piece of debris, a broken piece of metal from the destroyed door. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was something. She forced herself to stand, even though her ribs screamed in protest. You were exiled, she said, gasping for air. Thrown out by your own people. And now you're getting beaten by the species you call weak. Shaxtar's eyes narrowed. I am not beaten. Look around, G1 said. He did. His pirates were surrendering, or dead. The Crothian warriors had them completely overwhelmed. The command center was still secure. His plan had failed, and then Vorkash appeared beside G1, wounded but standing. In his claws, he held a Crothian blade. He didn't attack Shaxtar. Instead, he extended the blade toward G1, handle first. "You taught me something," the young warrior said in careful English. "Strength comes in many forms. Let me teach Shaxtar the same lesson." G1 took the blade. It was heavy, designed for Crothian hands. But she could hold it. She looked at Shaxtar and saw something new in his eyes. Not contempt anymore. Uncertainty. "You can surrender," she said. "Or you can learn what humans do when you corner them." For a long moment, Shaxtar stood there, weighing his options. His people were defeated. The battle was lost. If he killed G1 now, Galth's warriors would tear him apart. If he fought, he would die. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his claws. "I yield." The command center erupted in cheers from multiple species. The battle was over. Kepler-9 was saved. 2 weeks after the battle, G1 stood in a place she never imagined she would see. The Galactic Council chambers on Concord Prime was built on a scale that made Kepler-9 look small. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into artificial clouds. The walls showed holographic images of 40 different homeworlds, representing every species in the council. She wore her dress uniform, cleaned and pressed, with new medals on her chest for the defense of the station. Her ribs still hurt where Shaxtar had hit her, but the doctors said they would heal. The bruises were already fading to yellow and green. Ambassador Daun stood beside her, looking calm and confident in her formal robes. Lieutenant Hyun-woo was there too, and several other humans who had fought in the battle. But they were a tiny group compared to the hundreds of aliens filling the massive chamber. "Nervous." "Terrified," G1 admitted. "Good. That means you're taking this seriously." The ambassador smiled slightly. "Remember, you've already done the hard part. You earned their respect in battle. Now we just have to convince them to make it official." The council session began with formal announcements and procedures that G1 didn't fully understand. Various species reported on trade agreements and border disputes. It was all very diplomatic and boring, and G1 found her attention wandering. Then the council leader, an elderly Velian whose crystalline body glowed with soft blue light, spoke. "We now hear the petition of Earth, requesting a seat on the Security Committee. Ambassador Da-Un Nam will present the case." Da-Un stepped forward to the speaker's platform. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber as she outlined humanity's achievements in space, their contributions to galactic peace, their potential as allies. She spoke for 10 minutes, and G1 thought she was very impressive. But then the opposition began to speak. A tall Velian named Archon Velis approached the platform. His glow was sharp and bright, almost angry. "With respect to Ambassador Nam, one successful defense does not qualify a species for Security Committee membership. Humans have been in space for barely a century. They lack experience, perspective, and the wisdom that comes from millennia of civilization." A Chithan representative clicked forward. Hive Queen Silthara expresses concern. "Humans are aggressive, quick to violence. They may destabilize the careful peace we have built. The incident at Kepler-9 proves they are warriors, yes. But the Council needs diplomats, not fighters." A bird like sky talons spread their wings. Skylord Karnash agrees with previous speakers. Humans live short lives, barely 100 years. How can they understand conflicts that span centuries? How can they make decisions that affect thousands of years of future? One by one, species that G1 had never even heard of stood to argue against humanity. Some were polite. Some were dismissive. But all of them said the same thing. Humans were too young, too violent, too inexperienced. G1 felt anger building in her chest. These people hadn't been there. They hadn't seen her crew fight and bleed to protect the station. They hadn't seen Vorkash grow from an arrogant cub to a warrior who understood honor. They were judging humanity based on assumptions and prejudice. But then Galth stood. The massive Krathian war leader walked to the platform, and the chamber grew quiet. Everyone knew who he was. The Krathian Empire was powerful, and their military was feared across multiple sectors. When Galth spoke, people listened. "I have fought for 80 years, he began, his deep voice rumbling. "I have led warriors in hundreds of battles. I have seen species rise and fall. And I tell you now, these humans are worthy." He turned to look directly at G1. "Corporal G1 Park taught my student a lesson I could not teach. She showed him that strength is not always obvious, that underestimating an opponent is the fastest path to defeat. And then, when battle came, she did something I have rarely seen." Galth paused, letting his words settle. "She united 5 different species to fight as one. Not through force, not through threats, but through respect. She understood what each species did best, and she used those strengths in harmony. The Krathian Empire has tried for years to create such unity. We have failed more often than we have succeeded. This human, young by any measure, achieved it in hours." Vorkash stepped forward then, standing beside his teacher. His scales still bore scars from the battle, marks he would carry for life. "I took this human's food," he said in careful common language. "I thought she was weak. I thought humans were prey. I was wrong. APP. He touched his chest where the scars were deepest. "She could have humiliated me. Instead, she taught me. She fought me with honor, and when battle came, she protected me even though I had wronged her. This is not the action of a species unworthy of the council." The chamber buzzed with whispered conversations. G1 saw some representatives nodding, others still looking skeptical. Then Sentinel Mirax approached the platform. The Velian who had worked with G1 during the battle. Their glow was warm and thoughtful. "Archon Velis speaks of wisdom and experience. These are valuable, yes. But the human G1 showed me something else. She showed me that wisdom is not only about living long, it is about learning fast, adapting quickly, and caring about those you protect." Mirax turned to address Archon Velis directly. "Our species prides itself on logic and careful thought. But sometimes, logic alone is not enough. Sometimes you need the courage to act, to take risks, to trust in beings different from yourself. The humans have this courage. Act. They're one." More species began to speak, and G1 realized the tide was turning. A Chithan warrior who had fought in the ambush testified about human tactical innovation. A Sky Talon who had evacuated civilians spoke about how the human team had coordinated the rescue perfectly. Even a Narration, speaking through bubbling translation, praised the human engineer Dalsu for helping protect their water systems. Finally, the council leader raised a hand for silence. "We have heard much testimony. But perhaps we should hear from the human who has been the subject of so much discussion. Corporal G1 Park, please approach the platform." G1's stomach dropped. She hadn't expected to speak. She looked at Da-Un, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, G1 walked to the platform, feeling like every eye in the massive chamber was on her. The platform was designed for beings much larger than humans. She had to stand on her toes to be seen properly. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she thought about how ridiculous she must look. "I'm not good at speeches," she began. Several species made sounds that the translators rendered as laughter. "I'm a soldier. I follow orders, protect people, and try not to get killed. That's my job." She looked around at the assembled aliens. "Archon Velis is right. I'm just one person. I don't represent all of humanity. But I was trained by thousands of humans who came before me. Every tactic I know, every move I made, every decision in that battle came from people who taught me, who shared their knowledge, who passed down what they learned." G1 touched the medals on her chest. "These aren't just for me. They're for my brother Tae Sung, who sends me food from home to remind me why I'm out here. There for Lieutenant Hyun Woo, who trusted me, even when I made crazy plans. There for Bo Ram and Dal Su, and every human who stood beside me. There for my teachers on Mars, and Earth, and every station where I learned to be a soldier. She paused, gathering her thoughts. You say humans are young. You're right. We've only been in space for a little while. We don't have thousands of years of history like you do, but that's exactly why you should let us help. We remember what it's like to be new. We remember being scared and confused, and making mistakes. We remember needing help from others, and because we remember, we try to help others who need it. We try to make friends instead of enemies. We try to work together instead of alone. Ji-won looked directly at Vorkash. When that young warrior took my sandwich, I could have complained to security. I could have made it a diplomatic incident. But I didn't. I just took it back. And because of that simple action, I made a friend. I learned about a culture different from mine. I became part of something bigger than myself. She turned back to the council. Maybe that's what humans can bring to the security committee. Not just weapons or tactics or ships, but the willingness to make friends out of strangers. To find common ground with people completely different from us. To fight for our sandwiches, yes. But also to share them when the fighting is done. The chamber was completely silent when she finished. Ji-won stepped down from the platform, her heart pounding, convinced she had said something wrong. The council deliberated for 3 hours. Ji-won and the other humans waited in a side chamber, too nervous to talk much. Da-eun kept checking her datapad for updates. Hyun Woo paced. Galth and Vorkash waited with them, which Ji-won appreciated. Finally, they were called back. The council leader's glow was neutral, giving nothing away. The council has voted on Earth's petition for Security Committee membership. The vote was close, with significant opposition. However, the majority has decided that humanity has demonstrated sufficient capability and character. Yi-won held her breath. Earth is granted provisional membership on the Security Committee, subject to review in 5 years. During this time, human representatives will participate fully in all security decisions and operations. Congratulations, Ambassador Num. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some species applauded in their various ways. Others left immediately, clearly unhappy. But it didn't matter. Humanity had won. 6 months later, G1 was back on Kepler 9, which had been fully repaired and was busier than ever. She had been promoted to sergeant and put in charge of a joint security force that included humans, Krathians, and volunteers from other species. Vorkash had become her official partner, learning human tactics while teaching Krathian combat techniques. He was still young, still learning, but he had grown. The arrogant cub who had grabbed her sandwich was gone. In his place was a warrior who understood that strength came in many forms. It was lunchtime, and Ji-won sat in the same spot in the common area where everything had started. She had the same sandwich, sent by Tae-sung, who now included notes asking about her alien friends. Vorkash approached, carrying a tray with Krathian food. He hesitated, then looked at her sandwich. "Trade?" he asked, in much better English than before. Ji-won smiled and cut her sandwich in half. Vorkash did the same with his meal. They exchanged plates and sat across from each other. Galth watched from a distance, talking with Ambassador Da-eun, who had come to visit. "Your species continues to surprise us," the war leader said. "We surprise ourselves sometimes," Da-eun replied. Around them, the common area was full of different species, sharing meals, trading stories, making the kinds of connections that turned strangers into friends, and friends into allies. Humans sat with Krathians. Velians conversed with Chithan. Skytalons and Narians found common ground. It wasn't perfect. There were still disputes, still cultural misunderstandings, still moments of friction. But there was also respect, earned through courage and shared struggle. G1 took a bite of Krathian food and immediately regretted it. Too spicy. Vorkash laughed at her expression and offered her water. She drank it gratefully, then offered him a piece of kimchi. He tried it, his scales flushing with surprise at the flavor, and made a sound that might have been approval. Outside the station, stars turned in their ancient patterns. Ships came and went, carrying goods and people between worlds. The galaxy continued its complex dance of politics and commerce, war and peace. But in one small corner of Kepler 9, a human and a Krathian shared a meal and learned about each other's worlds. And that simple act, repeated in thousands of small moments across hundreds of stations, was changing the galaxy one sandwich at a time. G1 looked at her medals, now mounted on the wall of her quarters, and thought about everything that had happened. It all started because she refused to let someone take what was hers, because she stood up when it would have been easier to back down, because she believed that respect had to be earned, not demanded, and in earning respect for herself, she had helped earn it for all of humanity. Not bad for a soldier who just wanted to enjoy her lunch in peace. The future was uncertain. The 5-year review would come, eventually. There would be more challenges, more battles, more moments where humanity would have to prove itself. But G1 wasn't worried. Humans were good at proving themselves. They had been doing it since they first looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them, and they would keep doing it. One small act of courage at a time, until the whole galaxy understood what it meant to be human.